Commander Vexler stood in the center of his ship's bridge, his crimson scales gleaming under the cold blue lights. The Krathan Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the last century, and today they had discovered something unusual. A massive ancient structure floated in the darkness of space, covered in symbols that predated most known civilizations. It was a warning beacon, one of the legendary artifacts left by the precursors who had vanished from the galaxy millions of years ago. These beacons were rare, and most species treated them with respect and fear. The communications officer, a young warrior named Teshka, turned toward the commander with confusion in her golden eyes. "Commander, the beacon is activating. It's transmitting in the old language." Vexler's chest swelled with pride. He had studied the ancient tongues as part of his military education, something that set him apart from common soldiers. "Play the message," he ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. The bridge fell silent as the ancient voice filled the air. It spoke slowly, each word deliberate and heavy with meaning. "Warning to all who travel the stars. The sector known as Sol, the home of the species called humans, is forbidden territory. Do not approach. Do not contact. Do not engage. The humans are marked as a protected species by powers beyond your understanding. They possess capabilities that defy natural law. They have survived extinction events that would destroy any other civilization. They are relentless, adaptive, and impossible to fully defeat. This is not a suggestion. This is a final warning. The price of ignoring this message will be the complete destruction of any force that threatens their world. Stay away from Earth's region. You have been warned." The message repeated 3 times, each iteration more urgent than the last. When silence returned to the bridge, Vexler noticed his crew exchanging nervous glances. He felt a flash of anger. The Krathan Empire did not fear warnings from dead civilizations. The Council of War Vexler called an immediate council meeting aboard his flagship. The Crimson Fang, around the holographic table stood his most trusted advisors and warriors. General Croydon, commander of ground forces, was the first to speak. His massive frame and battle scars marked him as a veteran of countless conquests. "Commander, I have heard the beacon's warning. My initial analysis suggests we should take it seriously. The precursors did not leave warnings without reason." Vexler shook his head, his neck spines rising slightly in irritation. "General, the precursors have been dead for millions of years. Whatever threat they feared no longer exists. Species evolve, civilizations rise and fall. These humans are not the same creatures the precursors knew." He activated the holographic display, showing images of Earth that their long-range scouts had captured over the past months. "Look at them. They are divided into hundreds of separate nations. They fight wars among themselves constantly. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. They still use combustion engines for transportation in many regions. They pollute their own atmosphere and struggle to feed their entire population." Elder Scientist Moran, the oldest member of the council, stepped forward. Her scales had faded to a pale gray with age, and her eyes held the wisdom of decades spent studying alien civilizations. "Commander Vexler, with respect, surface observations can be deceiving. I have studied the data our scouts collected, and there are troubling patterns." She manipulated the holographic display, highlighting various aspects of human civilization. "Yes, they are divided politically, but their cultural output shows a species obsessed with survival. Their entertainment media is filled with stories about extinction events, alien invasions, and apocalyptic scenarios. They constantly imagine ways they might die as a species, and then create plans to survive those scenarios." Vexler waved dismissively. "Stories and imagination do not win wars, Elder. Plasma cannons and shield technology win wars." But Moran persisted. "Commander, I have analyzed thousands of hours of their transmissions. They have a concept they call mutually assured destruction. They built enough nuclear weapons to destroy their own planet multiple times over, then pointed those weapons at themselves for decades to prevent war between their largest nations. What kind of species thinks like that?" General Croydon nodded slowly. "A species that values deterrence over conquest. That is actually quite sophisticated. Wexler slammed his fist on the table, causing the hologram to flicker. It is the thinking of prey animals trying to appear dangerous. They are bluffing with weapons they are too afraid to use. He looked at each council member in turn. I have made my decision. We will enter human space with a strike force of 300 warships. We will offer them one chance to surrender and join the Empire peacefully. If they refuse, we will demonstrate our superiority by destroying their outer colonies first. Once they understand they cannot win, they will submit like all the others. Moran spoke quietly, her voice carrying the weight of her years. Commander, what if the precursors were right? What if we are making a terrible mistake? Wexler's eyes burned with ambition. Then we will be the first species in millions of years to prove that the precursors were wrong. Either way, our names will be remembered forever. The Scouts' deception 3 weeks later. Commander Wexler reviewed the final reconnaissance reports before the invasion. Scout Captain Zenter presented his findings with confidence. Commander, we have completed extensive surveillance of the human territories. Their defensive capabilities are minimal. They have approximately 200 military vessels scattered throughout their system, most of them concentrated around their homeworld. Wexler studied the tactical display with satisfaction. 200 ships against his 300, and his vessels were technologically superior. What about their ground forces? Zenter projected images of human soldiers. They are physically weak, Commander. They wear cloth uniforms and carry weapons that fire small metal projectiles. Our warrior armor would be impenetrable to their firearms. A single Krathan warrior is worth 10 of their soldiers. The commander smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. And their defensive installations? The scout captain hesitated for just a moment. Sir, we detected some unusual energy signatures around their asteroid belt and near their outer planets. But they appear to be civilian mining and research facilities. Nothing that poses a military threat? What Scout Captain Zenter did not report, because he did not know, was that every scan his ship had performed was carefully monitored by human intelligence. Every piece of data he collected was information that humanity wanted him to collect. The humans had been watching the Krathan Empire for years, ever since their expansion began moving in Earth's direction. They had prepared for this moment with the kind of meticulous planning that only a species obsessed with survival could achieve. The energy signatures that Zenter had dismissed as mining operations were actually weapons, platforms more powerful than anything the Krathan Empire had ever conceived. The research facilities near the outer planets were military command centers coordinating a defensive network that stretched throughout the entire solar system. The human ships that appeared on Krathan sensors were only a fraction of their actual fleet. The rest waited in hiding, using stealth technology that made them invisible to the scouts. Every movement, every patrol route, every communication from the Krathan fleet was intercepted, decoded, and analyzed by human military intelligence. They knew the exact composition of Wexler's strike force. They knew his tactical preferences from studying previous Krathan campaigns. They had even predicted the route his fleet would take through their outer territories. The point of no return, Commander Wexler stood before his assembled fleet. His image broadcast to all 300 warships. Warriors filled the viewing screens, their crimson scales gleaming with battle readiness. Warriors of the Krathan Empire. Today we write a new chapter in our glorious history. The humans have lived in isolation for too long, ignorant of the greater galaxy, unaware of their proper place in the order of things. We will show them the strength of the Empire. We will offer them the honor of joining our civilization. And if they refuse, we will teach them the price of defiance. Cheers erupted from thousands of warriors. They had been training for months, eager for conquest. The Krathan culture celebrated military victory above all else. And these warriors had heard tales of the riches that awaited in human territory. Elder scientist Moran watched the speech from her laboratory, her heart heavy with dread. She had spent the last 3 weeks analyzing every piece of data about humans she could access. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that they were making a catastrophic mistake. She pulled up a file she had been compiling, a collection of human historical records that their probes had intercepted. Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 humans held off an army of thousands until every defender was dead. The siege of Stalingrad, where an entire city became a killing ground and millions died rather than surrender. The defense of Moscow, where civilians built fortifications with their bare hands while bombs fell around them. Humanity's history was an endless scroll of desperate last stands, impossible victories, and the kind of stubborn refusal to surrender that defied rational will. They had fought wars that lasted for years, decades, even centuries. They had developed weapons capable of ending all life on their planet, and yet they had not destroyed themselves. Instead, they had learned to live with those weapons pointed at their own heads, using the threat of mutual extinction as a tool for maintaining peace. What kind of species does that? Moran wondered. What kind of mind accepts total annihilation as an acceptable outcome rather than surrender to an enemy? She tried one last time to contact Commander Wexler. Commander, please, I am begging you to reconsider. The data I have collected suggests that humans do not think like other species. They do not calculate victory based on survival rates. They calculate it based on whether their enemy can achieve their objectives. They would rather die as a species than live as slaves. Wexler's response was cold. Your fear dishonors you, Elder. Return to your laboratory and leave military decisions to warriors. The communication ended. Moran sat in silence, staring at the data streams flowing across her screens. In her long life, she had studied dozens of alien civilizations. She had learned to recognize patterns in how species behaved, how they fought, how they surrendered. But humans did not fit any pattern she understood. They were an anomaly, a species that had somehow survived and thrived on a planet that should have killed them long ago. Their world had thrown asteroid impacts, ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, and countless other extinction events at them. Each time humanity had adapted, evolved, and emerged stronger. The Krathan fleet activated their faster-than-light drives and began the journey toward Earth's region. 300 warships carrying over 100,000 warriors, all confident in their superiority, all certain of victory. None of them knew that they were flying into the most sophisticated military trap in human history. None of them understood that every assumption they had made about humanity was exactly what humans wanted them to believe. As the fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, Moran whispered a prayer to the old gods. She prayed for the warriors who were about to die. She prayed for her civilization, which might not survive the consequences of this arrogance. Most of all, she prayed that somehow, against all probability, Commander Wexler would recognize his mistake before it was too late. But in her heart, she knew that the Krathan Empire had just made the last fatal mistake of its existence. The ancient warning had been clear. They had been told to stay away from Earth's region. They had ignored that warning. Now they would learn why the precursors, in all their ancient wisdom, had feared humanity enough to leave a warning that would last for millions of years. Part 2. The Trap. Close the silent observers. Krathan fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly where Commander Wexler had planned. The jump had been flawless, and his 300 warships materialized in perfect formation. A crimson wall of military might hanging in the darkness of space. Navigation, confirm our position, Wexler ordered. The navigation officer worked quickly at her console. Position confirmed, Commander. We are at the edge of the system the humans call the Kuiper Belt, approximately 6 billion kilometers from their home world. All ships have arrived safely. No damage reported. Wexler nodded with satisfaction. Activate stealth systems. I want us invisible until we are ready to make contact. Throughout the fleet, advanced cloaking technology engaged. The Krathan warships seemed to fade from existence, becoming invisible to most conventional sensors. It was technology they had stolen from a conquered species 3 decades ago, and it had never failed them. What Commander Wexler did not know is that human sensors had detected the exact moment his fleet entered the solar system. The massive energy signature created by 300 ships simultaneously exiting faster than light. Travel was impossible to hide. Regardless of stealth technology, deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, in a command center built into the lunar bedrock, Admiral Marcus Stone watched the enemy fleet appear on his tactical display. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 decades of military service. Around him, Hundreds of officers and technicians worked with quiet efficiency, tracking every movement of the Krathon fleet. "Admiral, all enemy vessels have been tagged and identified," reported Colonel Sarah Chen, his tactical officer. "Fleet composition matches our intelligence predictions exactly. 300 warships divided into 5 battle groups." Stone allowed himself a slight smile. "They are following their standard invasion protocol." "Predictable," pressed a button on his command chair, opening a communication channel that reached across the entire solar system, connecting every human military installation, every hidden weapons platform, every concealed warship. "This is Admiral Stone to all commands. The enemy has arrived exactly as predicted. Maintain concealment. I repeat, maintain concealment. Do not reveal positions until I give the order. Let them think they have the advantage." Throughout the solar system, thousands of human personnel acknowledged the order. On Mars, where massive railgun installations were hidden beneath the red dust. In the asteroid belt, where weapons platforms disguised as mining equipment powered up their targeting systems. On Jupiter's moon Europa, where a fleet of submarines waited beneath the ice, ready to launch into space at a moment's notice. Near Saturn's rings, where an entire carrier group floated motionless, their stealth systems making them invisible against the cosmic background. Humanity had spent 15 years preparing for this moment. Ever since their long-range probes had first detected the Krathon Empire's expansion, military planners had been designing the ultimate defensive network. They had studied every battle the Krathon had fought. They had analyzed their tactics, their technology, their cultural psychology. They knew how the Krathon thought, how they fought, and most importantly, they knew how to make the Krathon underestimate them. The false confidence Commander Vexler watched his tactical display as his fleet moved deeper into the human system. Their sensors were detecting exactly what Scout Captain Zenter had reported: some civilian installations, a handful of military vessels near the inner planets, nothing that posed a significant threat. "Status report," he ordered. General Croydon stepped forward. "Commander, long-range scans confirm minimal military presence. We are detecting approximately 50 human vessels in orbit around their home world. Another 30 scattered throughout the inner system in various civilian platforms. No signs of advanced defensive networks." Vexler felt vindication surge through him. Elder Moran had been wrong. The ancient warning had been meaningless. These humans were as weak as they appeared. "Excellent. Proceed to Phase 2. Move the fleet to engagement distance from their home world. Once we are in position, we will transmit our surrender demands." The Krathon fleet advanced, their ships moving in perfect formation. They were approaching the orbit of Neptune, still billions of kilometers from Earth, but close enough to begin asserting their dominance. What they did not see were the hundreds of sensor buoys scattered throughout the system, each one disguised as space debris or small asteroids. These buoys were tracking every ship in the Krathon fleet, feeding data to the human command network. What they did not detect were the massive power plants hidden beneath the surfaces of various moons, capable of generating enough energy to power weapons that could vaporize entire fleets. What they did not understand was that every human vessel they could see on their sensors was exactly where humans wanted it to be, positioned to look vulnerable while actually serving as bait for the trap. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Stone watched the Krathon fleet advance exactly along the trajectory his strategists had predicted. "They are taking the bait perfectly," Colonel Chen observed. "Should we begin positioning our forces?" Stone shook his head. "Not yet. Let them get closer. I want them deep enough in our gravity well that retreat becomes difficult. Patience wins this battle." The revelation 3 hours later, the Krathon fleet reached the orbit of Mars. They were now close enough to Earth that communication delays would be minimal. Commander Vexler prepared to transmit his surrender demands. "Communications open a channel to Earth on all frequencies. I want every human to hear this message." As the communications officer worked, a strange thing happened. Before Vexler could transmit, a message came from Earth instead. A human face appeared on the main view screen, an older male with gray hair and calm, intelligent eyes. He wore a military uniform, and behind him, Vexler could see what appeared to be a sophisticated command center. Commander Vexler of the Krathan Empire, the human said in perfect Krathan language. I am Admiral Marcus Stone of the Earth Defense Force. Welcome to our solar system. We have been expecting you. Vexler felt a jolt of surprise. How did this human know his name? How did they know his language? Human, you will listen to my terms of stone, interrupted him calmly. Commander, before you continue, I need to show you something. I think it will change the nature of our conversation. The view screen split. Half still showed Admiral Stone's face. The other half showed the Krathan fleet from an external view, as if someone was watching them from a distance. What you are seeing is a live feed from our observation satellites, Stone explained. We have been tracking your fleet since the moment you entered our system. We know your fleet composition, your formation, your likely attack vectors. We have been waiting for you for a very long time. Vexler felt anger rising in his chest. Observation satellites mean nothing, human. You cannot stop 300 warships with cameras. Stone's expression did not change. You are correct. That is why we prepared other measures. He nodded to someone off-screen. Suddenly, the Krathan fleet's sensors went mad. Contact warnings flashed across every tactical display simultaneously. General Croydon stared at his screen in disbelief. Commander, we are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Hundreds of them. No, thousands of them. The external view on the main screen began highlighting objects that had been invisible moments before. Asteroids were suddenly revealing themselves as weapons platforms. Mining facilities were activating military-grade energy shields. Empty space was filling with warships as human vessels dropped their stealth systems and appeared on sensors. What you are seeing, Admiral Stone continued calmly, is the Earth Defense Network. 15 years of preparation, Commander. 15 years of building, hiding, and waiting. We knew someone like you would come eventually. Species that conquer other worlds always do. Vexler stared at the tactical display in growing horror. The numbers were impossible. His fleet of 300 ships was now surrounded by over 2,000 human vessels. Weapon platforms beyond count had them targeted from every direction. The entire solar system had transformed from an easy target into an elaborate death trap. The demonstration? This is impossible, Vexler whispered. Your technology is primitive. Our scouts confirmed. Your scouts confirmed exactly what we wanted them to confirm, Stone interrupted. Every scan they performed was monitored by our intelligence services. Every piece of data they collected was information we chose to give them. Commander, did you really think a species that survived for thousands of years on a death world, a species that built weapons capable of destroying their own planet, would not notice an invasion fleet preparing to enter their territory? He leaned forward slightly. We have been watching your empire for years. We knew you were expanding in our direction. We studied every battle you fought, every species you conquered. We learned your tactics, your technology, your psychology. We prepared for this exact scenario. General Croydon found his voice. Commander, I recommend immediate withdrawal. The tactical situation is untenable. But Vexler's pride would not allow retreat. It is still 300 against 2,000. We have faced worse odds before and emerged victorious. Admiral Stone shook his head slowly. Commander, you misunderstand. Those 2,000 ships are just the beginning. Computer, activate outer ring defense platforms. On the tactical display, new contacts began appearing. Massive structures hidden in the Kuiper Belt revealed themselves. Each one was the size of a small moon, and each one was generating enough power to rival a star. What you are looking at, Stone explained, are our stellar lance platforms. Each one is capable of focusing the energy of our sun into a coherent beam that can cut through any known shielding technology. We have 17 of them positioned throughout the system. He paused, letting that information sink in. Would you like a demonstration? Before Vexler could respond, one of the platforms activated. A beam of concentrated energy lanced across space, striking a large asteroid in the Kuiper Belt. The asteroid, several kilometers in diameter, simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field, just instant vaporization. The amount of energy required for such destruction was beyond anything the Krathan Empire had ever achieved. That was 1% power, Stone said quietly. At full power, a single stellar lance can destroy your entire fleet in approximately 47 seconds. We have 17 of them. The choice complete silence filled the bridge of Vexler's flagship. Every officer, every warrior, stared at the tactical display in shock. They had come here expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had walked into a nightmare. Elder Scientist Morin's voice came through on a private channel to the commander. Sir, I am analyzing the energy signatures from that weapon platform. The humans have somehow learned to harness stellar fusion as a weapon. This technology is centuries beyond anything we possess. We cannot win this battle. Vexler looked at his fleet, at the warriors who trusted him to lead them to victory. He thought about the 300 ships filled with over 100,000 soldiers. All of them someone's son or daughter. All of them with families waiting at home. His pride wanted to order an attack. His military training told him that retreat was the only logical option. But both choices felt like failure. Commander Admiral Stone's voice cut through his thoughts. I know what you are thinking. You are wondering if there is some way to win this battle. Some clever tactic or desperate maneuver that could turn this situation in your favor. Stone's expression softened slightly. There is not. We have wargamed every possible scenario. We have prepared for every tactic your military doctrine might employ. If you attack, every single one of your ships will be destroyed before they can fire a shot at our inner planets. A pause, then continued. But I want you to understand something, Commander. We do not want to destroy you. We are not conquerors. We are defenders. If you withdraw from our system right now, none of your warriors need to die today. Vexler found his voice. You would just let us leave? After we came here to conquer your world? Stone nodded. Yes. Because we understand something that your empire has not learned yet. Military strength is not about how many enemies you can destroy. It is about how many enemies you can convince not to fight you in the first place. He gestured to the tactical display. Right now, Commander, you have a choice. You can order your fleet to attack. You will be remembered as the commander who led 100,000 warriors to a meaningless death. Or you can order a retreat, return to your empire, and tell them what you saw here. Tell them that Earth is protected. Tell them that humans are not prey to be hunted. Admiral Stone's expression hardened. But also tell them this. If any force from your empire, or any other empire, enters our territory with hostile intent again, we will not be so generous. There will be no warnings, no chances to retreat. We will simply destroy them. The bitter retreat Commander Vexler looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. He saw fear, confusion, and the death of their confidence. These warriors had believed themselves invincible. In a few short hours, that belief had been shattered completely. Commander General Croydon said quietly, We have no choice. We must withdraw. Vexler knew he was right, but the humiliation burned in his chest like acid. To come here with such confidence, to ignore the ancient warning, to dismiss the concerns of Elder Moran. And now, to retreat without firing a single shot. His military career was over. His reputation was destroyed. But at least his warriors would live to see their families again. All ships, he said, his voice heavy with defeat. Prepare for immediate withdrawal. Disengage all weapon systems. Set course for Krathan space at maximum speed. Throughout the fleet, warriors who had been eager for battle felt relief mixed with shame. They had come here expecting glory and instead found humiliation. But they were alive and in the depths of space, surrounded by weapons that could erase them from existence. Alive was enough as the Krathan fleet began to turn away from Earth. Admiral Stone watched from his lunar command center. Colonel Chen stood beside him. Admiral, they are withdrawing. Should we allow them to leave? Stone nodded. Yes, let them go. They will carry our message to every corner of their empire and beyond. Word will spread about what happened here today. He looked at the tactical display showing the retreating Krathan ships. We could have destroyed them, sir, Chen observed. Why show mercy to an enemy that came here to enslave us? Stone was quiet for a moment before answering. Because, Colonel, Today we did something more important than winning a battle. We proved that humanity can be more than just survivors. We can be protectors of peace, even when we have the power to wage war. He gestured to the defensive network still visible on the displays. Every species in the galaxy will hear about this confrontation. Some will see us as too dangerous to approach. Others will see us as potential allies against aggression. But all of them will know that Earth is not a target for conquest. As the last Krathan ship disappeared from sensors, Admiral Stone opened a communication channel to all human military commands throughout the solar system. This is Admiral Stone to all commands. The enemy has withdrawn. Stand down from combat alert, but maintain readiness status. Today we protected our home without firing a shot in anger. That is a victory worth celebrating. Throughout the solar system, on planets and moons and hidden installations, human military personnel felt pride mixed with relief. They had prepared for 15 years for a battle that never came.